Are you looking to try and improve your raiding skills? Well, today I have got the ultimate guide to actually teach you to tank, DPS, and in certain situations, a specialized support role, even for some elite raids. So stick around, I'm going to give you all the basics and tips and tricks on what to do and not to do with some actual big boy behemoth examples. So enjoy today's video. Welcome, smash a like, comment, and subscribe for more daily videos of me, MrSneakyy. And guess what? Like I said, we are going to be going over all of the raid stuff to do with basically becoming a better raider. You know, everyone does like killing the behemoths in the game, but obviously they might struggle with the mechanics and basic fundamentals. So what I'm going to do is break those down because there is different roles and you guys have basic different, you know, jobs in the raid to do. So like any game like World of Warcraft, or even you can imagine League of Legends and all these different MMO style of team-based games, there is roles within a team, and this game is no exception in their raid purposes. So you've got the tank role. These guys are the guys that are going to be in charge of taking as much damage and, more importantly, controlling the aggro of that behemoth. Very, very important job to do, but it is, someone has to do it, right? But you have also the DPS, and this is the one what a lot of players enjoy doing. Obviously dealing the most amount of damage possible in the raid, allowing you to obviously kill the boss and get those frames, or obviously get that behemoth in your alliance arsenal for PvP purposes. But like I said, there was a third specialist, and this is what I'm going to call the supportive role, and we're going to showcase this later on. But the supportive role in certain aspects in a raid, and we've only seen it once so far, and that is in the elite Hydra raid, which we're going to showcase on. But you can have a specialized job, so this could be picking up redstones for a mechanic. If there's another mechanic which requires a lot of movement, you could be in charge of doing those style of mechanics. And maybe later on you could even be bringing certain things like a mage or maybe an archer that uses stuff like the Heart of Camus to actually AoE buff the archers around you and actually support your team. So let's go into some actual in-game examples now of elite raids and raiding in general, and show you what the premise of a raid is and what you guys need to be doing from different points of views. And welcome to the tank section of the video. So when we are talking about tanking, there's some things that you guys need to remember, and that is simply the positioning of these different guys. So if you look in the center here, obviously we've got the Hydra in the position, but when you look around, all of the tanks are in a nice spreaded around of the Hydra. What does this mean? It means it allows any of the tanks to obviously go in, take control, and then from a clockwise perspective, the next tank needs to go in, he can, right? And then once he's done, it'll rotate around to the next tank and he'll go in, and you can see it's a nice simple way of drawing aggro. And you're probably wondering, how are you actually getting this aggro, right? Because in the game, obviously, you're not just going to be able to hold and maintain the threat, which is in the top left corner. And that is because of DPS, right? DPS will always out damage the tank, and that's how they gain threat. So how can we avoid this? Well, when we go into the game, the main tank lineup that you're going to be using is going to be a Madeline and Garwood. You have to soak up as much damage as possible, guys. If you cannot run this, I would not be running a main tank right in the later stage, because this is the devastation. But the big thing that you'll notice is on the Garwood is this cool Harlequin's mask. And this is the way a tank player can maintain his aggro on the behemoth. So for 5 seconds while you are taunting the behemoth, it basically forces the behemoth to target you. So if you can now go back and imagine in the video now here, we've got 5 different tanks. So that's 25 seconds worth of time of obviously, you know, keeping control of that behemoth. But when we go and look, the cooldown of the actual artifact here is only 30 seconds, meaning you only have 5 seconds of downtime between your next trigger. And what this means as a tank player, obviously the Behemoth is going to do some different moves. So when you're in those moves and those skills, those are the times where the 5 seconds that you've been waiting on will come up. So you're going to see the main start now of the raid, and this is what a tank needs to do, and this is a big tip for the DPS players, because if you do this wrong, it's going to cause a lot of problems. So if you'll notice, the tank player runs in first and then he starts to attack. Once he starts doing some damage, he then taunts the Behemoth. This is allowing him to actually maintain control properly at the start. So if you watch this again, you're going to see this come straight in where he runs in, takes control of that aggro there, and then has the taunt. So what happens now is what you would expect from the next tank is ready to run into position and get control of this aggro in the next couple of seconds. And we're going to see that this doesn't happen, right? And because of this, it causes a problem. The next guy instead taunts it and obviously pulls it back into the middle. And this is where a tank, as you know, you as a tank player, needs to be actually aware of what's going on. And this was actually a really clutch save by this player. And then Duracell here, and then I will then do some actually really nice taunts here. So you can see Duracell's got the taunt, he's got the ability triggering there. So now I am waiting for my turn because I know I'm about to go in to taunt this guy. So now here we go, I run instantly in and I taunt the Behemoth. So now you can see I've actually got control of the Behemoth. I've pulled it nicely away from everyone, right? And that's what you need to do as a tank right here. So if you're not doing this and you're not actually dragging, you know, this Behemoth back here or somewhere where your alliance is safe, because now all my alliance members are like this and they're facing the back of the Hydra, so none of those big nasty AoE cones are going to hit them. Well, I'm doing my job correctly, and then the next tank, as you can imagine, should run into this position and take control of my area, allowing me to then run away and help out any mechanics that might be needed. This could be any of the stones that are located here. This could be even just grabbing the healing stone, right? Could be any sort of mechanic in any of the raids for you guys. So let's go into now the DPS section. We're going to show you how a DPS should be playing the game, and then we'll do the support, and then we're going to put it all together in a Flame Dragon exclusive fight. Now for the DPS, and I know you guys love the DPS section. This is where a lot of players do enjoy, obviously, doing the damage in the game like anyone would. But what we're going to do before we jump straight into the footage is give you those little tips and tricks in the hero section, right? So if you're a DPS player, you've got a little bit of a variety to pick from. So the one thing you will always be told, and this is true to this day so far, Syndreon and Freyga is the #1 single target DPS match possible in the game, meaning even in a raid, this thing pumps out the most damage that you can actually do. And in raids, DPS wise, archers always do the most damage compared to mages, even in T5 scenarios, right? So just remember that. Obviously, there might be some mage players that have better mages compared to the archers, but you'll always realize even the medium tier archer pairing will actually be a top tier mage pairing, even in T4. So if you're looking for suggestions, obviously this is your go-to pairing, and then from here you've got stuff in the early game like Guanwyn. You can run Guanwyn Nico, is a very good combo in the early game. And if you don't have a good Nico, well, guess what, Craig and Guanwyn, this is a really good combo. You'd always put Guanwyn in the primary slot. Why? Because the talent tree you're going to be rocking is this one you can see here, where you're going down the precision tree and taking advantage of as many normal attack damage hits as you can. This works the exact same with the Syndreon, right? So Syndreon's going to have this nasty, big, massive generation of normal attack damage for his march. So that's why we're going to be rocking our Syndreon or the Guanwyn early game, and then you will be pairing it, like I say, with the Freygar, or if you don't have Freygar, the Nico, right? Any artifact you're going to be using just to finish round things up is going to be the offensive stuff. So anything like Shadow Blades, or if you've got the epic version, which is the Nasty Bomb Flinger, you can use this thing at level 5. It does 2400 single target damage every 1 minute 30, meaning there's no rage cost. So you can actually pump out a lot more damage than you would imagine, especially when this is leveled up quite high with the Marksman and Legion attacks, right? So that's what you're going to be needing to succeed in your DPS role for your pairings, right? So I hope that makes sense for you. It's a little bit more in-depth than the tank role. I do apologize to the tanks. You guys at the moment don't have that many infantry heroes to actually go around, but we're here in the Hydra now, and what we got is, I'm not participating in this because it was for the elite frame. I've already got it, so I'm stepping back, allowing other players to potentially get the frame. And what you can see here is the DPS, right? And the DPS are the very fundamental role when you are trying to be a good DPS player. So obviously you can see this is where the Hydra is located, and he's going to be trying to stay there, or in maybe an empty spot where there's not many players, right? So the DPS role is trying to always be, as you can see, at the back. You always want to be trying to face the back end of any behemoth in the game. Why? It's because a behemoth always does its moves in these sort of craziness, right? In these sort of AoE arcs, and they're always frontal. Even the big one, which the Hydra does here, is a big frontal one. So you always want to try and maintain being at the back if you're in a damage role. What this does is quite simply allows your match to maintain maximum Legion, and that is your role. Your role is 2 jobs. Maintain either maximum Legion count, and that is through either healing in the raid or obviously not taking damage, and then secondly, fulfilling mechanics. So we're going to watch now in the game and showcase some mechanics on the Elite Hydra, what you guys should be helping to do when we're going in, because as you can see, the raid starts exactly like before in the tank section. Tank starts the damage, hits the taunt, and then the DPS come in. And what you can see here is obviously all the DPS doing as much damage as they can, and the taunt coming in, hopefully saving the aggro, which it does, right? And that's what the tanks need to do to maintain DPS having the maximum efficiency possible, right? Here you can see some absolute nastiness, and this is where the first mechanic is involved. And obviously the Hydra here isn't in a good place, but this is where DPS need to be paying attention, because you can see the template coming out, and this template is massive. And the thing is, if you wondered how long you've got, it's this inner timer. There's a little inner timer here, and this is gonna grow as the seconds pass, and once this line reaches the end here, you're gonna start taking damage. So what you need to do is maintain your position and get out of there and keep that health bar intact, because if you're at maximum health, you're dealing maximum damage in the game. And that is why we keep saying to you guys, you need to be doing this for your march. So here we're gonna watch it, and you can see one guy about to get hit, and he gets taken 50k damage, and that is why you need to be out of there, right? So here we go, all the DPS doing their role, nice and simple. Shadow Games off cooldown, which is a very important thing. Now, this is another mechanic I just want to just hint for you guys in the DPS role, and this is why I'm talking about DPS players need to fulfill their mechanic check, because stuff like this is why you will not complete an elite raid like the Hydra or the elite Necro Giant. And we're talking about these mechanics called the stones here, right? So if you look at the stones, there's one right here, and these stones, if one, even just one is alive, it's going to hit you with a wave of poison against everyone, and each one that survives is more and more damage that you are taking, and these things do so much damage to you. But the benefit is, if you take it, yes, you might get a poison stack on yourself, and this will be cleansed later on with the healing of that Hydra raid, which you guys should know about. But it will give you that extra 20% damage bonus. So this is why we're saying fulfill mechanic checks for your DPS role, because that's how you can actually, like myself as a T4 player, get in the top 10 rankings and get really high up in the DPS rankings if you get the mechanic checks like these stones. So that is just a nice little tip and trick there, and basically understanding of the DPS role. And what we're going to do is showcase the final one, and this is again one last little role for specifically the Elite Hydra, but maybe in the upcoming, you know, game, we're gonna have new seasons, right? Season 3, season 4, and so on, and these are gonna have potentially new behemoths with new mechanics, where we might need this third and specialized role, which is the support role for your raid alliance. And here we are, the support role, and this one is a very specific, definitely specific scenario that we're going to be going over, and this is for the Elite Hydra raid. So certain times where you might need just basically maximum DPS, where everyone just keeps dealing damage, no one moves, you might need people like myself as a specialist support. So my job in this is pretty simple. I am the support. I have to basically fulfill the mechanic checks for my alliance, because there's certain times, as you can imagine, where your alliance members are not doing what they're told, and that's actually costing you a lot of problems, right? So what we're going to do is showcase what my job actually is, and you can probably guess it for the Elite Hydra. So we are dealing some damage to the, you know, guy, but this is it. My role for the support role is to get as many of these stones as we can. So you can see I've gained 2 of those stones, having a 50% damage increase, and now I'm starting to pump out the damage. I throw out even the spring blades, we do all of the damage, and that is what a support can do. So this is just a showcase of basically, look, we have 3 cavalry players that are supportive roles, and all we are tasked with, as you can see, and we're really good at doing it, is getting those unstable, you know, areas, so our team doesn't have to worry about it, and our team can just maximize DPS with all the T5 players and so on, and maybe someone who doesn't have as much damage can do this role, which is a very clever way of actually assigning someone a role that helps the alliance massively in the raid. And like I said, this is just one instance of it. Maybe in the future you could be using something like an archer with the Heart of Camisade to boost up those T5 players around you. Maybe in the future there'll be a mage artifact that boosts AoE, you know, around you with mage buffs, who knows. So it's going to be a really interesting thought on it. And now let's basically get all this together. We've gone over the tanks, we've gone over the DPS, and finally this is the supportive role that I'm just throwing in there as an additional role, just in case in the future we might need it as a mechanic. So let's go and put all this together into one final video, and it's a very special video because we have some footage of 203 when they were trying to get their flame dragon, and they keep killing it, but then losing out on the time, and they're trying to get that elite frame. And I do want to give an update that they did manage to do it in time before obviously I got this recorded. So I'm using some older footage before then, but we're going to be using this footage specifically because this is how they could have improved, right? And they did take in some considerations, some notes that I said about artifacts, pairings, and basically mechanics that allows them to basically actually kill the elite flame dragon in time. And I know HVC now has that frame, so congratulations to you guys. So let's go over to the flame dragon raid, put everything together, and make sure you guys can understand everything in those roles. And the finale of everything, like I said, we're going over the flame dragon, and you can see as we're about to start, things are not already good. And this is where it always, I'm going to say it, the start of the raid honestly is one of the most important aspects of the raid. You need to get it nailed in order for you and your alliance members to take advantage. So when we go and actually look at these things, right, and see, you know, and break it down, you can see that the dragon is located here, right? And because of that, already the dragon is doing its massive AoE move around this area, basically killing all of these players, you can see how many players it's actually going to wipe out right now. So this is a major problem, and this is down to, and this is the first mistake straight away, that the DPS did not wait for the tank, which is located here, to actually grab the aggro correctly. Because if you grab the aggro correctly and the other tanks were ready, this dragon should be still smack bang in the middle, allowing all the DPS players basically to be on these two outer edges here, you know, shooting into the center, right, and allowing basically the tank player to stand here and making all the moves go in this zone, as you can still imagine, and it allows all this DPS to be safe, right? So let's go and see how they handle it, because they do need to draw aggro, they do need to actually then, on top of things, then move it out of position. Otherwise, you can see the amount of damage this thing will deal to an alliance is massive. And this is where all the fundamentals from the tank role, the DPS role, and potentially support roles, which ain't really needed in this raid, luckily enough, is going to be needed though, right? So it's a very, very intriguing fight. We have now the raid in a good position. So this is now a very good position to pause on, because this is what I was explaining about earlier. We have the dragon located now in the center of the screen of the map, allowing, you can see, this murder ball and this murder ball now to actually work together and actually hit this out of sight. And you can see the tanks positioned 1, 2 and 3 at the moment, which is really good, allowing either this guy to pull the aggro or this guy to pull the aggro, and it allows the dragon to then move away even further and actually be even in a better position for your alliance. So this is where, again, all the tank fundamentals and stuff like that all comes into play. You do need to be a little bit knowledgeable. This is a little bit advanced, I will say, that I'm discussing. It's more of playing from a World of Warcraft background. This is very basic in that game. But obviously this is new. This is a new mobile game. Not many players have actually played a raid game like World of Warcraft, or even like Final Fantasy and RuneScape and stuff like that, which has raids involved, right? So it's really cool to see this, and now that is where we can see, with a quick pause now, the difference between the beginning to this one, right? So now if we pause it, we can see we have the beautiful DPS all located in the banana, if you want to call it, and then this silly dragon, of course, is just here, right? He's just trying to do some damage, not being able to, right? So this is basically the raid doing its job, all the tanks doing all of their job, keeping the main behemoth out of position from the DPS, right? So congrats, that is basically a nice, you know, what you shouldn't have done to what you should do, and this is a really good raid to see, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it because of it, because you can see the adaptation and the flexibility that you're going to need in a raid to adapt to all the situations. So there we go, nice little thing. One little bit of advice though, the tanker there shouldn't really have taken that damage. He should have tried to run out, because just remember, during those animations the dragon cannot move, so you can basically run behind it, wait, and then run back into that zone after, and then retaunt it, right? So nice little gameplay tips there. I hope you guys have been enjoying it so far. We're gonna just fast forward it a little bit to this section here, because this is where a lot of time is wasted. So what you guys need to do, and this is where the DPS now need to be on board. The DPS need to be able to actually do their jobs and do DPS, meaning they need to actually kill both of these things pretty much at the exact same time. Why? Yes, only one can go on a timer at a time, allowing that healing to go off, but it allowed you to basically get both of these stones ready to heal and then go into the DPS phase again. So we're going to watch that again for you guys, just to showcase that explanation on what I would expect you guys to be doing. You see one already dropped down, but the top one a little bit slow, right? And obviously these mechanics here, 56k damage, you should be dodging these as the DPS player. So this is basically fundamentals, dodge and DPS, right? So we can see really good little basics, and this one again you can see on screen while we pause it, you've got the AoE, which is the damage of the lizard blowing up, which is about to happen, and then you've got, as it's about to trigger within 1 second now, the actual wall of division, the flames, right? So here we go. Nice and easy, right? So hopefully you've taken in all of what I've said so far to do with the damage templates, the timers, the tank play, the DPS play, and potentially the support play if you need it in your raid, right? And this is basically how you will improve as a team. No one expects to, you know, get a kill first time, unless honestly the Behemoth is super easy. But when it comes to the Flame Dragon, the Frost Dragon, the Elite Hydras, the Necro Giants, all the big boys, even potentially the Dire Bear in some scenarios, requires really good tank work to actually make that elite raid a lot easier than it actually is, right? So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Smash a like, comment, and subscribe for more daily videos on Callof Dragons. My name's MrSneakyy, an official Callof Dragons content creator, and this has been raiding. Hopefully you've learned how to tank roll, DPS roll, support roll, and in a raid here, which we are showcasing how you can dodge mechanics and put it all together to hopefully deal enough DPS to slay that Behemoth. So thank you for the support, thank you for smashing the like, thank you for smashing the support button on the subs, and with all that, stay safe, stay sneaky, peace out.